Brutal signs he doesn't love you anymore, and what you can do about it. No relationship is simple. Fighting, bickering, and stupid pointless spats are common between two people who love each other but are going through a difficult time. But how do you know if your relationship is just going through a rough patch or if it's officially over? The main distinction is whether or not both partners continue to love each other. Anything can be fixed with love. When that love is gone, your relationship is nothing more than a corpse waiting to be discovered. So, do you believe your man has fallen out of love with you? Here are 20 signs that he may no longer love you. 1. The fighting was terrible at first, but then it stopped. Nobody enjoys fighting in a relationship, but fighting shows that both parties still care. And many people make the mistake of viewing the end of fighting as a positive event. After a long series of fights, you and your partner have finally stopped squabbling, and thus your relationship has been repaired. However, fighting can end a relationship without repairing it. Fighting can also end when one partner simply gives up and can't be bothered, which could be the ultimate sign that your man has fallen out of love. Things he used to argue with you about now seem stupid to him because he no longer cares about you or the relationship and is simply waiting for it to die naturally or for the opportunity to finally leave. He's going through the motions and letting you have your victories because it's no longer a competition he wants to be a part of. 2. You can't recall your last new experience with him. A man who cares about you wants the best for you, and what could be better than a new experience? And having a new experience does not always entail spending several $1,000s on a trip halfway around the world. It could be as simple as trying a new restaurant together, taking up a new hobby together, or even cooking a new dish together. These experiences are important because they lay the groundwork for a happy relationship. But your partner no longer does these things with you, and you no longer try to do them with him. He no longer loves you, which means he no longer loves your relationship, which means he no longer cares about creating memories with you. 3. You have no idea what's going on with him anymore. A typical settled couple's life can become routine and boring. You both go to work every day, maybe hang out with friends on weekends, and maybe spend nights together watching Netflix on the couch. Even if you have little going on in your lives, you are aware of everything that is going on in his head, his thoughts, his rants, his annoyances, and the things he is looking forward to. You feel as if you know nothing these days. You're familiar with his routines, but there's nothing going on beneath the surface. He doesn't tell you everything he doesn't have to tell you, only what you already know. He appears to be a well-known stranger in your life. 4. He's not involved in what you're doing. He's stopped being a part of your world just as you've stopped being a part of his. Slowly but steadily, and most likely without your knowledge until recently, he untangled himself from your life, cutting the cords that bound him to all your shared social obligations. And he has no intention of changing anything. When you bring it up with him, he may simply state that he is much busier than he used to be, or that space is beneficial to both of you. And, while it's important to maintain your individuality and remain your whole self, it's also critical to spend enough time with your partner to act like a couple. But here's the thing, he no longer wants to be in a relationship with you. 5. He doesn't hold back anymore. Relationships live or die based on the ground rules you and your partner establish for each other. There are unwritten rules and lines that you both know you should never cross because these are places you can't easily return from. It could be issues you're both deeply insecure about, or things close to your heart. There are ways our partners can hurt us more deeply than anyone else, simply because they know us better. But he no longer cares. Your partner no longer respects those lines, and whenever the two of you fight, you know he's more than willing to cross them and use the most lethal bullets in his arsenal. And the truth is that he stopped respecting those lines because he stopped loving and respecting you, and part of him wants to see how far he can push you before you do what he won't do, and the relationship for good. 6. You've caught him telling lies. Lying is never a good thing, especially between two people who are supposed to be building their lives together. Some of the biggest lies we can tell our partners are whether or not we have betrayed, cheated on, or otherwise harmed them. What's even worse is when you catch your man lying to you for no apparent reason. Small lies that he had no reason to conceal from you, such as how he spent his afternoon with his friends instead of working, or how he pretended to be sick when he really just wanted to be alone. Things that you would have completely understood if he had simply told you the truth. Instead, he lied to you about them. Why? Because he simply doesn't care anymore, and you've lost your place in his heart. 7. He is no longer protecting you. When a man is truly in love, he cannot help but protect his love. It's in his blood. According to a study published in the journal Physiology and Behavior, male testosterone makes them feel protective of their mate's safety and well-being. There's a fascinating new concept in relationship psychology that's getting a lot of attention right now. It gets to the heart of the mystery of why men fall in love, and with whom they fall in love. According to the theory, men want to be your hero. That they want to step up and provide for and protect the woman in their lives. This is ingrained in male biology. It's referred to as the hero instinct. The kicker is that if a man does not feel like your hero, he will not fall in love with you. He aspires to be viewed as a protector. You genuinely want and need to be around someone. Not as an accessory, best friend, or partner in crime. I realize this may sound ridiculous. Women do not need to be rescued in this day and age. They do not require a hero in their lives. And I couldn't agree with you more. But here's the funny thing. Men still need to be heroes. Because it's in our DNA to seek out relationships that make us feel like a protector. Check out this free online video by the relationship psychologist who coined the term to learn more about the hero instinct. He offers an intriguing insight into this novel concept. So, if he fails to protect you, it could be a sign that he is losing interest in you. How do you know? Does he move his body to the side of the road when you cross the street? Does he try to save your day when you're in trouble? Does he rush to fix your car's tire when it breaks down? If you answer no to these questions, he may have lost interest in being your hero. 8. Your sex life is getting old. Two people can still have sex even if they've fallen out of love with each other, so sleeping together doesn't necessarily mean he still loves you. A more important factor to consider is the quality of your sex life, and whether or not he still feels like he's into it, or if he's just going through the motions and fulfilling his obligation to physically satisfy you. Remember how sex used to be? Exciting, fun, and kinky? There was always something you or he wanted to try the next time, a reason to get back into bed with him, and a carnal urge that you could feel when he was around you. But what about now? It now feels old. It feels dead, limp, and boring, and you don't even ask for it anymore because you know you'll be disappointed with what it's become. 9. He has stopped caring about your happiness and has stopped apologizing. You fell in love with him because of how he made you feel, light, happy, optimistic, and hopeful for the future, and you didn't want that feeling to go away. He filled you with a giddiness that lasted long after the initial rush had worn off, and you did your best to fill him with the same sensation. But, after months or years of fighting and arguing, that feeling has not only vanished, but he appears to be determined to make you feel the opposite. When he hurts you, he refuses to apologize because his ego is more important to him than your pain. When you are upset, he refuses to think about what he could do to make you feel better because he is tired of your emotions and the way you process things emotionally. He's tired, exhausted, and done, and the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you can start caring for yourself again. 10. His friends are growing distant from you. There was a time when his friends were your friends, and they made you feel like you were part of the crew, or at the very least someone they enjoyed being around. You could feel their delight that you were a part of his and, later, their lives, and you enjoyed being around them. But these days, they seem to know something you don't. They appear distant, less friendly than before, but just respectful and interactive enough that you have no reason to be suspicious. If your partner has fallen out of love with you, his closest friends are likely to be the first to find out, and they may not always be as good at concealing the truth as he is. 11. There are no more future plans. When was the last time you and your partner discussed the future? Was it months or years ago? There are no more hopes or dreams. Simply accept your current reality and live it one day at a time until life changes on its own. He may claim that this is because he already has the future he desires, or that he is simply too busy to daydream like he used to. But when we're happy and satisfied with our lives, with a partner we ostensibly love, we always have hopes and dreams. If he no longer loves you, he will no longer have the same drive and motivation to improve his life with you. 12. He stopped caring for himself. He's no longer the guy you fell in love with, and it only takes one look to see that. He used to show up on your doorstep looking sexy. Even if he wasn't a particularly sharp dresser, you could tell he made an effort to look good for you. Nowadays, the situation is exactly the opposite. Even on special occasions, he can't be bothered to dress nicely. It's not just the clothes either. He's given up on looking good for you or even doing the bare necessities like combing his hair and brushing his teeth. You no longer feel a smidgen of attraction when you look at him. It's more like having a roommate than living with your boyfriend. 13. Your cute things now irritate him. There is no such thing as a perfect couple. Even the most compatible partner will have personality quirks. After all, you can't be on the same page all of the time. However, it is precisely these quirks that bring life to your interactions. Perhaps he used to find your perfectionism endearing or took pleasure in how long it took you to get ready for a night out. You can't remember the last time he simply enjoyed you for who you are. These little things you did, or are doing, are no longer cute to him. When you exhibit certain personality traits, he no longer dismisses them or finds them endearing. He reacts negatively to everything you do, especially the old quirks he used to adore about you. It's as if he wants to date a completely different person, one who lacks the peculiarities that define you. 14. He always has a lot on his mind. Do you want to talk about why you've been fighting lately? You can't because he's too preoccupied. Do you want to suggest a fun trip to rekindle your relationship? No, he's too preoccupied for that as well. Regardless of your efforts to repair the relationship, he simply does not appear to be interested in doing his fair share any longer. He always plays the "I'm too busy" card whenever you bring something up that forces him to recommit to the relationship or even evaluate it. A guy who is still committed to the relationship will make time for you in his hectic schedule. If he seems to prioritize anything other than you, take it as a sign that he's looking for a way out and is hoping that his aversion will eventually force you to pull the plug. 15. There will be no additional communication. Remember when he would surprise you with thoughtful gifts or even drop by to say hello? Remember when you'd get random phone calls and texts asking how you were and what you were doing? You reflect on those small moments and wonder where they all went. It doesn't seem to bother him anymore that the two of you can go hours without speaking. You don't stop talking, you just stop talking outside of the essentials. Your interactions are limited to polite niceties and typical couple conversations. Sure, you still talk about work at dinner, but you've stopped talking for the sake of talking. When was the last time you simply hung out, sat together, and talked? When was the last time you laughed and had a good time doing nothing but being next to each other? If you can't recall the last time you saw each other, it's probably because you've stopped enjoying each other's company. 16. He's just not happy anymore. Something about him seems dissatisfied, as if he's no longer satisfied with his life. Even on his good days, which are becoming increasingly rare, he lacks enthusiasm and excitement. When you look at him, he appears to be hell-bent on turning a relatively good day into something miserable and unhappy. This pervasive unhappiness pervades everything he does, including his interactions with you. He appears to be less patient, considerate, and eager. You find yourself pulling the weight because he appears to be finished with everything, from housework to initiating intimate moments in the bedroom. 17. You're aware of several things he dislikes about you. It's not due to your superhuman intuition. Because he no longer respects boundaries, he can easily list all the things that are wrong with you. You know exactly what he dislikes about you, from the way you wear your hair to the quirks in your personality. He has no problem identifying and highlighting your flaws. Even harmless things you do outside of fights are now wrong. At the end of the day, the feeling that he no longer loves you isn't so much a feeling as it is an undeniable fact. With all of the things he dislikes about you, and his blatant callousness in showing you that he dislikes you because of those things, it's clear he's done with the relationship. 18. You feel cut off from the people who are important to you. Nowadays, it appears that you must choose between him and the people you care about. You feel more isolated than ever, and he no longer appears to care about your happiness. Even though you want to talk to the people you care about your relationship, you can't because he's effectively keeping you away from them. Outside of the relationship, it's impossible to find happiness because he's built a barrier between you and the rest of the world. If your guy does this, it's a clear indication that he's not only angry, but also vindictive about the relationship. His intentions are not simply to keep you in a loveless relationship, but to isolate you to the point where you feel hopeless and lonely in it. If your partner is behaving in this manner, know that there will be no reconciliation and that the best course of action is to pack your belongings and leave. 19. He thinks your emotions are ridiculous. Empathy comes with love. Unfortunately, a man who has fallen out of love with you will likely dismiss your feelings as insignificant. It doesn't matter if your feelings are legitimate or if your retaliation is simply a reaction to what he's done. Every emotion that comes out of you is the same old gimmick to him. This inability to empathize with and sympathize with you manifests itself in a variety of ways. Even if you're crying in the middle of a fight, he might push you further. Even if you tell him to stop, he may continue to call you names. Your feelings clearly don't matter to him anymore, to the point where he takes them for granted. Without even realizing it, he's making life-altering decisions on your behalf or without your knowledge. He no longer seeks your advice or seeks your opinion on both minor and major aspects of his and your life together. In other words, he no longer considers you to be a part of his bubble and has no qualms about letting you know. 20. He loses track of time during conversations. Do you ever get the impression that he isn't really there? You could be talking about something fascinating, but his gaze never seems to meet yours. You're still eating together and doing everything you used to do, but even a blind person can see that he's not paying attention. To cut a long story short, he's so over you that he's uninterested in everything you say. You find yourself repeating yourself over and over, only to have it fall on deaf ears. It doesn't really matter if you're choosing a restaurant for dinner or discussing financial plans. In either case, you're just talking to a brick wall.